Well, that wasn't uh, follow through from yesterday's plan. Such a shame. I planned on getting up at 6, like 5:30 today, so I could go to the plasma donation office at 6 after getting ready, and then after going through the whole process and arriving home probably 3 hours later, work on my YouTube video for 2 hours and then read Dune for Messiah for 1 hour. And I didn't do any of that. Instead, I stayed in bed till 10. I was woken up by my mom, who gave me some cornbread that she recently cooked today. And I hung out with her and our family friend. Then they needed to leave, one for work and one for personal duties. And then it was just my sister got up for a bit. I greeted her. I was telling her all about the video projects that I've been working on and then showing her. And, she thought they were pretty amusing. And we got into conversation about AI video generation, the practicality of it in terms of like budget, and is it really something worth doing? And I mean, it heavily depends on like how clear your vision for your story is. If you know exactly what story you want to tell and how long each scene should be to tell it, then you can get the most value out of AI video generation. But if you don't know any of that and you're kind of just messing around and throwing out wacky ideas like I'm doing right now with my fellow coworkers, who I ask permission for, by the way, if they're interested in appearing in these new Sea Dance 2 video generations. And I've gotten yes from two of them, one a cashier, one a co-manager, and they both see these and they're pretty amused by them. But yeah, and it's mostly just them like fighting ninjas and becoming superheroes and stopping asteroids from hitting the Earth and silly things like that. I have to admit it is a lot of fun getting to see people you see every day in a new light where they're like doing all manner of fun and silly things that are bring a little brevity, bring a little humor, um, bring some fun to the day, I suppose. Yeah. So that's cool. Then my sister decided to go back to sleep. I needed to use the restroom. After I was done with that, I decided to work on finances and budgeting with um, Claude the voice mode, which was Sonnet 4.5, I think. And I basically spent the whole time sharing about like, okay, here's what I made last week. Here's how much I spent last week. What's my net profit for the week in total? And here's what I'll be making today. And what can I do to ensure that I can have a higher ending balance this week than I did last week? And basically, what it said was just avoid any or too much discretionary spending. Like if you're gonna eat out just once a week, if that, preferably not at all. Just eat what you have at home. And like if you want to see a movie, just like see one like that you're actually interested in, of course. And it also helps if you see it on Tuesdays and Wednesdays where tickets are half off. So, things like that, pretty common sense, but it definitely does help when you have numbers to put towards the data and you can, seeing it makes it feel more real. So you feel like your decisions have actual weight rather than just being some vacuous thing that you're hoping like will end up working out when it may or may not work out. So yeah, that's something definitely to keep in mind and consider for sure. And yeah, that's what I did with Claude, but then I ran out of usage for Claude because I have the free version. I don't have the paid version right now. I used to have the paid version for about a month, but with these models, each one always updates, and suddenly one month, ChatGPT is better. Then the next month, Grok is better, and then the month after that, Claude is better. So it's always like a competition between each of these chatbots in terms of like benchmarks and which one performs the best. And that's why I don't stay subscribed to one, because I know that within like a month, there's always going to be an updated version of like another model that's probably going to kick the other model's butt. So yeah, it doesn't make sense to perpetually subscribe to one single service when all of them are evolving at rapid paces. But anywho, I, I guess the best argument you can make is you can still, change services but avoid ChatGPT because they just signed like an agreement with the Department of War to use their technology. And people aren't happy about like ChatGPT, like now basically having access to people's personal data and then using that to feed like war plans and whatnot. It just it's all kinds of weird and creepy. So there is a good reason to not use GPT and Claude. The Anthropic, the people behind them, Claude said that they would not ever sign any agreement with the U.S. government or to integrate their service with like war or whatnot. So I guess that's why people are all about Claude. But the thing is, like ChatGPT has better image generation. They used to have video generation through Sora, but not anymore. They realized they were wasting millions and millions of dollars on Sora, and they were like, well, you know, this isn't really working out. So what should we do? So they decided to shut it down, and they're reallocating their efforts into robotics, like humanoid robotics, and training instead, which is an interesting pivot. But yeah, I kind of got off a tangent there. But yeah, I was talking about finances, and then after that, I suddenly got into this conversation about like, you know, credit cards, because I've never had a credit card before, but I keep on hearing, "Ooh, it's good to have good credit because it increases your chances of getting, you know, access to better loans and like, extra perks like cash back and things like that." So I did some research and I found out that like if you do use a credit card and you consistently pay it out monthly, and you just use it to spend on the things that you would have spent on anyways, then it can end up increasing, it increases your value in terms of like having great credit score, but also, um, gives you rewards like cash back. And so I thought about, oh, well, no, this sounds good. And let me try signing up for a credit card because I'm pretty good about my essentials that I need to pay for. And if I could get extra cash back on things I was paying for anyways, then that sounds like a great thing, especially building good credit and being consistent on payments. However, I tried to apply to one that was stated to have a lot of good perks, but my I was declined getting the credit card, and I was told that I would be receiving a letter soon describing exactly why. So, yeah, uh, I was asking Google about this. Why would I be declined? And the reason why I could come down to You have no credit history, so the people who would be giving you the card don't seem like they trust to give you, a credit card if you don't have proven track record. Another thing is perhaps your income isn't as high as maybe they would like, because they'd rather like someone with a consistently high income get a card because they're more likely to pay their card off versus someone who has lower income. And maybe your job is the reason why they're like, no. Um, so, yeah, I guess I'll find out soon enough what's going on there. Um, but yeah, it did come as a shock to me because, I was like, oh, that's the first time I've been rejected by simply wanting to sign up for a, you know, financial service like a credit card. So, yeah. But I guess we'll see where that road ends up leading in the next few days. Yeah. Well, anywho, after I was done doing all that research, I was getting hungry, so I made spaghetti, and well, we only had 2 meatballs, so I used a frozen hamburger patty and mixed it into tomato sauce, and then chopped that up, and then I boiled some noodles. I strained it, kept it in the pan that I cooked it in, put some butter, some garlic, salt, mix that together, then put the tomato sauce with the meatballs and the meat patty that was chopped up in there, mixed it up, and I ate that. It was pretty good. I was listening to this guy on YouTube. His name, I think, is Anthony Petrov, and he's basically this YouTuber who talks about recent scientific discoveries and references real data points and stuff, which is something that I do appreciate. I feel like a lot of YouTubers just want to go for the instantly sensational headlines, like "Whoa, maybe this could be real," whereas this guy, he just says what was discovered, and if it interests you and you like science, you can click on it. If it doesn't, then you don't. And then he gives off the good data points and evidence and measurable papers, and he gives off a fair measured view of what was being discovered. For example, apparently Mars has certain chemical compositions that would be difficult for to be made without having some form of life exist on that planet. So, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that Mars was once a planet that had some kind of life to it, but at some point, for some reason, eventually, the water all left the atmosphere, dust storms took everything away, um, and everything was put to a halt. So, yeah, really interesting stuff. He also talked about the Artemis 2 mission and basically about how he believed that this would be good because it would look into the long-term effects of what happens when humans are in space for extended periods of time, and things like, space radiation and whatnot, and what that could potentially do to, astronauts who are traveling. So all that's really cool, really interesting. I really enjoyed his video for sure. Then I need to get dressed and ready for work. I wet my hair, I combed it, I made a sandwich as I was making my spaghetti for later. Um, I got some Chex cheddar mix. I put that in a container with the sandwich, and then I had an apple, and I drove off to work. When I arrived at work, I punched in, I greeted my coworkers, and then I remember I was checking the schedule. Sweeps, surprise, surprise. Put on my vest, and yeah, it was like a bouncing around kind of day, from bagging to taking orders out to sweeping, break room, produce area, and store floor. checking bathrooms, helping customers. Um, and yeah, notable exceptions to this time spent included some water bottles in a container that had 36 bottles, like, being wet and dripping. So I had to take all of them out and dry the area so that way could have, you know, I wouldn't leave any water trail behind, potentially having anyone slip. So, the threat was neutralized in that case. And then another thing was, one of my coworkers needed my help drying up beer spill that happened in the back refrigerated area where we keep the beers, and then taking the broken can and dumping that, and then taking the 2 cans that were busted but weren't broken enough to start leaking, and wipe those and put them in our cage area. And so yeah, I did all that. Pretty rewarding, I suppose. I asked one of my key managers if where I put the water. They said just put it in the box in the back on the cage, so I did that too. And yeah, anything else other than that that I'm forgetting? No, I can't really think of anything right now. Um, oh yeah, I showed a lot of my coworkers the clips I generated of one of our key carrier managers fighting Ninja, and they all thought it was pretty funny and amusing, including my manager, or key manager, that I asked if it'd be all right, and they said yes. So I generated and showed them, and they got a little chuckle out of it. So that was pretty cool. And then I then I went on my 10-minute break, where I spent that time doing some breath work. Breath with Sandy, 10 minutes, try to feel more zen, more in tune with the present moment. It's pretty good. Went downstairs, continued my duties. Not much to really report on, just swept a lot. Greeted one of my coworkers in the meat department. It was pretty cool. And then I punched out for lunch. And for lunch, I had my honey turkey sandwich. I had to get some packets, some mustard packages, and put 3 in the sandwich. Open them, put them in there. It's pretty good. So I ate that with the Chex Mix and the and they were giving us free juice at my store, so I got the juice, and I've been chipping away at it day by day ever since I got it. And yeah, it's pretty good indeed. And eventually, as I was eating the sandwich, I was like listening to a like podcast where a guy was talking about how in the next like 800 days, like the world will be completely unrecognizable now that from then than it is now. And yeah, so it was a video about like him talking about AI taking over and all that. Pretty interesting. Eventually, I punched back in. I did my closing chores. I took out the trash. I refilled the bags. I wiped down the check stands. I closed the produce blinds. And my coworker did a great job. The thing was, our key carrier manager boss wanted the carts brought to the front of the store so they could be sprayed and cleaned in the morning. And my coworker brought all the carts out in the front while I was wiping down the check stands, which I was very, very grateful for. Because normally when that happens, like I've got to do double duty. Like I got to wipe the check stands and then I got to bring the carts out and all. And the fact I could dedicate my energy to clean the check stands while my coworker was doing those lot duties, I was very grateful for. They cleared lot. They brought all the carts out so they could be cleaned. And then he brought 16 carts in with a sign. So thank you very much. Greatly appreciate it. Yeah. And as we were closing, we were just hanging out. And as I was like wiping down the last few check stands, and yeah, pretty good time overall. I really enjoyed it. I then punched out. I said goodbye to my my co-manager, or key carrier manager. He gave me some ideas for the next video I could generate, and I thought a lot of the ideas were very fun and funny. I then went in my car. I drove off home, and when I arrived home, I was immediately greeted by my sister. She told me that there was chicken waiting for me that our family friend made. I reheated the chicken in the air fryer, 350 degrees, for 5 minutes. And then I ate that while watching a lady talk about, like, alien interview footage for like 50 minutes. And when I finished eating the chicken legs, I went up and threw the bones away and washed the plate. Our family friend got up. I greeted her. Me and my sister thanked her for making the meal, and she even brought ice cream and recess for the whole family, so that was cool. And so we hugged and then said good night. It was pretty cool. I then had a ice cream cone full of Rocky Road. I really like that. And then I had my recess with a cup of coffee, so that was pretty cool. And after that video was done, I found a new video from the Y-Files, which was a new podcast they made called The Basement, where AJ Gentile is interviewing a documentary and filmmaker, James Fox, who made Moment of Contact. And they're basically talking about how the film was made. It's pretty interesting video. As I was listening to it, I was like, I haven't touched my Switch in a while, so I grabbed my Switch. I looked for a game that I could like work with as the podcast is playing, something long form that I could dedicate a decent amount of mental space to, and I found Mario Maker 2, so I selected that. And Mario Maker 2, at first, it's really tough because you're like, I don't know what the heck I have to do. It's just a blank canvas, and I'm not sure how to make an interesting level. But the further you mess around and like experiment and see how you can make something interesting and cool, the more like the possibilities open up, and the more like fun and interesting results you get. And I think that's really awesome. So pretty cool overall. Really enjoyed Mario Maker. Really enjoyed the podcast. It's relaxing. It was nice. It was creative. I even paused and went in the game and went into the section that was like the tutorial section. And my favorite thing about that from Mario Maker 2 is the immediate change in music every time you select a new menu option in the help center of the game. I just think that's incredible. It gives the game so much personality, and I love it. Well, it was getting late, so I was done. I went up. As I was watching the video, my mom came out. I greeted her. And yeah, then she went to do her thing, then left to go back to sleep. So yeah, it was cool. But yeah, after I was done with listening to as much of the podcast as I could and playing as much of the game as I could, Mario Maker 2, I decided to go record this update video. so that way I can publish it, and then I can just focus on getting ready for bed with my vitamins and brushing my teeth and all that. So that's pretty much my day in a nutshell. Overall, pretty solid day. Nothing to really complain about. And yeah, that's about all I gotta say. See you in the next video, and take care, everybody. Bye for now.